Hi, welcome to another edition of Luke-alike, where we are taking a slow walk, if you will, through the book of Luke, studying a few verses here and there, a few thoughts. I want to pick up in Luke chapter 1, verse 19. This is a conversation that an angel is having with Zechariah. Then the angel said in verse 19, "I am Gabriel. I stand in the very presence of God. It is he who sent me to bring you this good news." Now, the good news? That he and his wife were going to have a child. "But now, since you didn't believe what I said, you will be silent and unable to speak until the child is born. For my words will certainly be fulfilled at the proper time." Meanwhile, the people were waiting for Zechariah to come out of the sanctuary, wondering why he was taking so long, and when he finally came out, he couldn't speak to them. Then they realized from his gestures that his silence must have been because he had seen a vision in the sanctuary. When Zechariah's week of service in the temple was over, he returned home, and soon afterwards his wife Elizabeth became pregnant, and he went into seclusion for 5 months. "How kind the Lord is," she exclaimed. "He has taken away my disgrace for having no children." We had talked about the fact that Elizabeth and Zechariah had this thing that had always bothered them. It was a darkness, if you will, that they had to struggle through. And yet out of that darkness, God comes along and surprises them. So much so that this man of God doesn't believe it can happen. So much so that because he doesn't believe, he's not going to be able to speak. The angel Gabriel himself has made this appearance before him. You would think that would be enough. And Zechariah's disbelief means that he's not going to be able to speak. And so you only can imagine how those communications were going. His wife becomes pregnant, and then all of a sudden the story fast forwards 5 months later. And then we get to that next part of the story. And in verse 26, it says, "In the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, God sent the angel Gabriel to Nazareth, a village in Galilee, to a virgin named Mary. She was engaged to be married to a man named Joseph, a descendant of King David. Gabriel appeared to her and said, 'Greetings, favored woman, the Lord is with you.'" Gabriel is the angel of choice that God is using as this messenger to deliver all of these birth announcements to these people that God is using in very powerful, miraculous ways. The verse continues and it says, "Confused and disturbed, Mary tried to think what the angel could mean. 'Don't be afraid, Mary,' the angel told her, 'for you found favor with God.'" In the presence of the angel, in the presence of a representative of God, Mary was confused, disturbed, as Scripture tells us, so much so that the angel had to say, "Don't be afraid. You have found favor with God." It is overwhelming to think that God might want to use us to do something incredible. Mary is a girl who there is nothing spectacular about her except for her faithfulness, and we don't know a whole lot of her backstory. But we do know this, that God was orchestrating her life in such a way to move her into just the right position at just the right moment for Jesus to enter the world. And because she was willing and because she was obedient, then she becomes known as the mother of Jesus. And we have what we know as today as a Christmas story. But interestingly, it begins with fear. And it begins with a little bit of trepidation. I think that that's normal. If you've ever been afraid when you've been trying to get ready to do something for God, I think that's normal. Fear doesn't have to become sin. And fear certainly is something that God can use to draw you closer to Him. That's why we have over and over repeated in Scripture, "Fear not, fear not, fear not." It is one of the first messages of Christmas. It's repeated often during the Christmas story. Because when God is doing something new, sure, we react with a little bit of fear. I think as followers, we get the comfort of knowing, because the Spirit dwells within us, that we don't have to be afraid, but we can find comfort and hope in the fact that God is wanting to use us. And so that nervousness that we feel, that holy nervousness, is a good thing sometimes. But remember, the voice of the angel to Mary is the same words that God would share with you. don't be afraid. And when you are willing, in spite of that fear, God's going to do something incredible with you. That's what it looks like to me. We'll come back next time and continue our journey through the book of Luke.